Man, oh man, here we go again. Back for a little bit of the old 3G's garage action. That was a pudding ripoff for any of you guys who are into that. How's it going today? Welcome back. I'm Greg. This is 3G's garage. Got a doozy for you guys today. Couple different projects. We might be bouncing around a little bit between some things. This is a big one. The clock is ticking on, getting these things together in time for the first race. So we got to get to work here. So if you watched the last video, you're going to know that we've got some issues with the suspension mounts on this thing. They are cracked. You want to get in here and just take a look. They're cracked and they're bent. I'm going to I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to weld that shut and then maybe plate over the inside of this with some aluminum. But that is yet to be determined. I am not like a fabrication guy, nor am I much of a welder. So I do know how to do both. So you're going to see that. And then Keegan's got a project here on his 440, 540 SS. And he'll show you, give you a quick rundown on the things that he's going to do there.
So. Okay, so earlier this week I mounted a Polaris twin pulse tach. Usually we just use these little chintzy digital tachometers. So I'm going to plug some stuff in. Hopefully it does some tacholator things, and we'll get like a real solid readout right in front of my face instead of down there. And then I also bought some new ski shocks for it. I'll probably put those on. So 2 small projects on this thing for today, and then it should be wrapped up, ready to go to do some racing here pretty soon. So yeah, hang with us. We're gonna start turning wrenches and getting our hands dirty here.
Hey, before I get going on this deal, you guys, I want to thank you guys for your support. We got a lot of loyal people who keep watching. We love that. Really appreciate it. For those of you guys who are just tuning in or the casual visitors, please like and subscribe. We could really use the help. We want to grow the channel. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us a lot.
All right, so I'm pretty new to this concept here. I've never put a Polaris tach on a sled. We have one on Dolores there, but what I think I'm gonna do is, so the brown is the ground and the yellow is the hot or the pulse wire. And I got a couple empty connectors. I think this one is for the high and low beam switch, and then this one is for what used to be the lights in the dash. So I'm gonna take my hot wire and I'm gonna plug it in to the blue wire here, and then I'm gonna use this ground here in this connector, and I'm gonna plug it into the ground. It should just be that easy. Yeah, I think that's really all there is to it, other than starting it up and seeing if it works. So I'm gonna start plugging stuff in and see what works and what doesn't. Okay guys, we're outside the shop now. It's like 45 degrees out at the end of December. But we got it all wired up now. Like I said before, we did ground. Brown is ground into the ground wire there. And then I just, what do you call that? A spade connector or whatever from the pulse wire into one of the 3 of these. I believe this is the, what is that? The high and low beam switch, I think. Yeah. Also, I didn't mention before how I mounted this here, which is probably the biggest hurdle of installing one of these. I guess I kind of just got lucky that the distance between the outer bolts on this clamp is perfectly in line with the studs that come off of the tach. So I just made 2 little tabs, bent them down a little bit, drilled 2 holes, and just it went together too easy. So the reason that this is an upgrade compared to the $15 Amazon Chinesium units here, it's way more accurate. There's a bit of a delay when you get on the throttle with these, they'll kind of, it being digital too, it's hard to watch the numbers go up. You know, it's kind of hard to tell. It's good for like a rough estimate, but compared to like a true analog tack that you can really watch where it's shifting at, and you know what it peaks at and what it settles at, the Polaris analog tacks are like the go-to. And plus you can pick one of these up for about $10. So we'll get her fired up here and seems to be a worthwhile upgrade compared to, you know, watching the digital one compared to the analog one. I much prefer the analog one. So yeah, that was definitely worth the time. Probably gonna remove this now and then throw some ski shocks on it and get ready to hit the track here at the end of the month. Okay, so I got my new ski shocks here. They did not come with the inserts, as you can see there. It's supposed to be like a metal bushing like this. We had two of these laying around that fit the top. I'm gonna have to go into the part stash downstairs, dig around a little bit, and see if I can't find two more for the bottom ones. The ski shocks, I mean, this is a pretty easy job. I really shouldn't have to show too much, so I'm gonna go hunt for two of those metal bushings for the bottom of these. Okay, so I did find the proper bushing that I needed down in the basement, so now I got both my ski shocks on, ready to hit some jumps now, baby. But the finishing touch here is the part of the signature look of the sled here is these beat up old ski shock covers. They came with the sled, and they're always going to be on the sled because they're part of the look. So we're going to wrap those babies up and call it done on this project.
All right, guys. So I'm getting going here on trying to repair these suspension mounts on Griffin's sled here. So this one's obviously cracked and just busted out. This one, you can't see it very well, but it is cracked up on top here. And it's also kind of bent. You know, it's bent out of shape. You know, it's bent out this way, and it's not really in line with where it needs to be. So what I think I'm gonna attempt to do to remedy this is I've got a little dolly set, just a cheap Chinese Amazon dolly and hammer set. I'm not a body guy or a fab guy, but I think I'm gonna try to bend these back as good as I can, get them straight, and then what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld on the outside here, and then possibly either weld a plate on the inside here, a steel plate, or potentially like drill out a couple of these rivets maybe and use some of the rivet holes to just put a plate across the back here just to kind of structurally reinforce all of this stuff. The only issue that you're potentially dealing with here is adding anything to the inside just means you're going to have to kind of bow or bend the edges of the tunnel out to get the skid up underneath there. So that is the approach I'm going to take. I'm going to get after that. I'm going to straighten them out, maybe weld them up here right away, and I'll kind of show you some of the progress as we go. If you're some of you might have already noticed, if you're asking, what's the deal with all this stuff? Griffin put these Yamahas, they're aluminum tunnels, so if you jump them or if you ride them hard, they have a tendency to the footboards bow kind of bad, and that is an issue that we deal with. So we happened to come across a sled that was kind of already made for racing. That was an SR5, and it came with like an exoskeleton kind of. It's just a reinforcement. It's over there, the black frame. He had to kind of hack the back end of the chassis off here to get that to fit, and that also presents some issues in this area as well. So we're going to work around that, and we're going to try to patch this thing up, get the skid back under it, and get that framework back on there. So I'll get started. All right, so I hammered these back as best I could. I'm going to grind them lightly, and I think I'm going to try to weld over these cracks to start with. This might take a few attempts because it's cracked right around the hole. So we'll, All right, guys, so as conveniently as it is, it's a Saturday here and my welder's out of gas, but I got to get this done and I have limited time to do this stuff, so I welded them anyways. It's going to have to do, so I welded some fat stuff on this, I welded on the inside. I'm going to grind the insides of both of these tabs down as good as I can. The outside, I'm just going to get them, give them a light grind because we can use some washers over the top. I want the strength in there, and then I'm going to put some plating on the inside there. So I'm going to grind these smooth and then get going on that. I haven't decided if I'm going to try to rivet the plates on the inside or if I'm going to weld them. The welder being out of gas is kind of crucial for that, but it is what it is. Got to work around it. All right, guys, so here's the idea that I had. Like anything custom, you could go 1,000 different ways with this. I could have just used a plate of steel or whatever, but we're back here behind the shop in the old junkyard, and I have an Ovation chassis. Actually, it's Keegan's chassis, but so this has got a plate on it that's very similar to the one that's on the XL5 that I'm working on. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind all these rivets off, and then I'll take this bolt out and try to get that back plate. I don't know if these it's two plates sandwiched together, and I don't know if they're actually welded together or not, but the initial plan here is to use the inner plate and just kind of sister that one onto what's there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, guys, so I got my brackets off the Ovation, and what I actually did is, so I drilled all the rivets out, and this was actually like an L-shaped bracket. I put it in the vise and I smashed it flat, just so that I can utilize that double thickness for the whole thing. It's actually spot welded in 3 places down here. I think I might just because I might just go along the seam just to, to shore that up a little bit more. I'm going to actually be cutting this off some, and I'm going to fit it in here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to mark this and cut it and all that. So I'm going to use this, and as you can see, this is a wider, or the hole is just positioned different. It's a little bit different shape. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to match the angles this way, and I think I'll cut it off here so I don't run into any of these existing rivets that are up here, and that way I can kind of just flush mount it. I do want to trim it though to match on this corner, so that might be a little tricky, and then what I'll do is I'll just weld along the seam and then up along the seam across there. So that's the plan as of this point. I'm going to get at it, and we'll see what happens. Follow along here. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys. So I've got my pieces all cut here, just the two. It's a little bit of a weird shape, but you know, I cut them to fit in here like so. I have the one buttoned into there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get that stitched on real quick. All right, guys, so here's the finished product. I had to quick put a shot of some paint on there so that you couldn't see how bad my welds were. You probably still can, but I don't know. They're a little thicker on the inside. You know, so if anything, we're going to have to, you know, spread the tunnel apart just a little bit maybe to get the skid back in there. But otherwise, I mean, they fit pretty damn nice, I think, and should be, you know, a little bit foolproof there from the cracking issues that we were having with them. So, all right, I think Keegan and I are gonna slap the skid back in this thing and, you know, see if there's any issues with that. So, all right, guys, so I got the new mounts all ready to go on the sled, welded in, painted, as you saw. So it's time for the skid to go back in. Just a couple of little tips and tricks for you guys. Regardless if your shock is good or not, you're going to need to compress it. I don't know how other makes do this, but on the Yamahas, you always have to put a ratchet strap around, and a lot of times it's hard to fit that all in there. And I've even heard of people cutting them off and stuff, but we've never had to do that. So you want to somehow get a ratchet strap on this end and on the other end of the shock. And before you put it in, just put it around there and get it kind of snugged up. You don't really need to put any tension on it, because what you're going to do is when you get it in its place, you're going to use the ratcheting part of the strap to line up your holes. So there's that. The other thing you need to make sure you have done before you try to put this back in there to save yourself some serious headaches is your back axle. You need to make sure that that's loosened up all the way. So, you know, it is possible to get these skids out of here without loosening the rear axle. And if you try to put it back in, which we have done in our earlier days, without it loosened up, you're going to fight it and fight it. Regardless, every time you take one of these out and put them back in, it seems to be a little bit of a struggle no matter how you do it. There's no two ways about it. So it's a tight fitting piece. And yeah, so we're going to throw it under there. Maybe you can watch us struggle here a little bit and we'll fit it in there.
All right, so Dad, you want to lift this up? So we got the rear end of the sled in the air. It lets us bring the track up, gives us some room here. The main thing is we got to get the wheels of the skid up over the rubber molded clips here and then into its running spot. So we're going to try and do that now.
Yeah, so we got the back end of the sled off the ground. That's a key element to this whole process. So we got to lift the track up, kind of run the skid in there. Actually, this is where it's kind of tricky. Gotta kind of wiggle it in there. Hang on.
Stuck top.
Yeah, we're pushing. Okay. There we go. There. You'll feel it drop into place,
yep.
And the slides will
kind of see
that
the slide is in its home now.
So what we'll do next now is we'll start to lower the. Well, no, we'll try to line up the front. All right, guys. So we got the front bolts in. time to do the rears. It's just we took the jack out from underneath the front, moved it around underneath the back, and we've got the shock ratchet strapped. So what we're going to need to do is we raised the back end of the skid and track up a little bit. So we're close to where we need to be here. But here's the hole, here's the hole. So we got to get them two lined up. So if Keegan's going to ratchet strap that together a little bit. Going.
Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Now I need to go up some. Oh, too much.
Too much.
Actually, ratchet strap it again. We'll see if we can a hair more. Okay, well, you might have to kind of hold that in between while I try to start my bolt. All right. Try to do this while we're... Can you ratchet it over just a little bit? Yeah, okay. All right, I believe I got that started. Yeah, so preferred method here in a lot of cases on these skids, the axles will spin inside of their housing, so an impact gun is probably your best bet for taking these off and putting them back on, because otherwise the axle spins and you can't turn it. So just get them started if you can, finger tight, make sure that they're not cross-threaded, and then get the gun out and just hammer them. So looks like we're not going to run into any spacing issues really with our extra thickness from the added gussets in there. So that looks good. We didn't have to spread the tunnel at all to get it to fit in. It just went in there. So that's a good deal. So we're going to get these bolts run in, tightened up. And then the last step in the whole process, well, we're going to take the ratchet strap off, of course. And then the last step in the process will be to tension the track. And we probably won't do that today, but I'll show you how that's done anyways. So. All right, guys. So that'll pretty much do it for this one. For the old rocket back here, we've got all we got left is to tension the track, and that'll do it on that. I think we went over how to do that on some of the other videos, so we'll spare you that. You got your shocks installed?
Shocks installed, tack is installed. I think my 540 sled should be ready to go for this winter now. We might do some testing with some clutching setups, but I'd be perfectly comfortable running it with how it is if we get some snow.
We're really hoping that we get some snow quick so we can do some testing, because we have some stuff to iron out with the clutching and the gearing on some of these. Because the tracks we go to, some of them are really long-legged and some of them are short, and you know, you need different setups for some of that. But otherwise, thanks again for watching, guys. Today we've got the old Labatt Blue, and this guy here, I spent the last 2 days in the hospital, so it feels damn good to be out of there and working in the shop with you guys and cracking a beer.
Cracking beer. Cheers.
That'll do it, guys. Get out there and turn some wrenches.
Yep.
We'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Thanks.